This is it, boys. Jin-Woo versus the ultimate nightmare. The whole world is watching as he steps up to end this monster once and for all. And trust me, the ending of this episode will leave you speechless. After the match start, Jin-Woo quickly noticed that Goto wasn't even fighting, just standing there, analyzing everyone like some evil mastermind. Meanwhile, Dongwook activated beast mode, and things kicked off immediately. Beck squared up against the masked guy, while everyone else dove straight into the chaos. The fight started with a mana Gatling gun, just to set the mood. Teu was getting overwhelmed by Speedster, but instead of panicking, he turned his opponent's speed against him. Meanwhile, a mana arrow nearly took Top Knot Guy by surprise, forcing him to order his team to focus on Teu first. But this was no time to be distracted. He turned away for just a second and almost got a flying kick straight to the face. The arena was built with Korea's strongest magic stones, but these hunters were tearing through it like cheap cardboard. The Japanese hunters knew Beck was the biggest threat. If he got close, he wouldn't just grab their wrists, he'd snap them in half. Eye Patch Guy was already nervous, but after Beck transformed? Yeah, he probably wished he had called in sick that day. Things got serious. Karate Kid got slammed into the floor by Top Knot Guy, Teu was completely pinned down, and Coward Boy? Oh, he was running for his life from Beck. Meanwhile, Cha was suffocating her opponent with relentless attacks. Moving so smoothly, they started calling her the ballerina. After taking down her opponent, she rushed to back up Beck. But Coward Boy made a fatal mistake. He tried to hit her from behind. She turned around and smacked him so hard he nearly flew out of the arena. But now, things were about to get even crazier. Beck activated Berserker mode. That meant one thing, he wouldn't stop until someone was taken out. And Gu? He didn't care at all. Kumamoto was so fast that even Cha was struggling to keep up. He used the smoke to hide his movements and went straight for the kill. But before he could land the final blow, boom! Jin-Woo appeared out of nowhere, blocking the strike effortlessly and calling him out for taking things too far. Kumamoto was pissed, but before he could react, Jin-Woo already had him locked down. Gu watched in complete disbelief. There was no way this kid was just a random B-rank hunter. Jin-Woo turned to Cha and casually suggested they count this as a loss, since Beck was already out too. But that was just the beginning. Gu's assistant approached Jin-Woo with a special invitation to fight Gu himself. No translation needed, it was obvious what was happening. Jin-Woo had just conquered the Demon Castle, and he was eager to test his power. But Gu? He didn't like the cocky grin on Jin-Woo's face. The translator relayed the message. Jin-Woo accepted, but with one condition: Goto had to go all out. The audience was stunned. Who in their right mind challenges the second strongest hunter in Asia like this? Cha knew Jin-Woo could solo an A-rank dungeon boss, but could he take on Goto? She asked Beck if they should stop this fight. The logical answer? Absolutely. But nobody wanted to miss this showdown. Jin-Woo stretched a bit, got ready, and before he could even blink, a massive punch flew straight at his face. Too bad for Gu, Jin-Woo dodged just in time. Goto immediately realized this wasn't going to be an easy fight. Jin-Woo could tell Gu was stronger than any hunter he had faced before, but all that strength meant nothing if you couldn't even land a hit. Ryuji cranked up the speed, launching punches at light speed. The audience was already in shock. Jin-Woo was dodging everything like it was nothing. But Cha was the only one who noticed the real kicker. Jin-Woo wasn't even serious yet. He was just toying with Goto, testing his strength. Goto knew he had to go all out. If he didn't, he might actually lose to this kid. So he decided to end it right there. He launched a meteor punch, barely grazing Jin-Woo. And Jin-Woo knew, if things escalated any further, he'd probably trigger one of those kill or be killed quests again. So he did what he does best. He caught Goto's fist mid-air, smirked and said, "You almost lost an eye there. I didn't grab your wrist on purpose. I don't want to end this too soon." Their auras exploded, shaking the entire arena. It felt like the whole place would collapse if they kept going. So, Beck and Cha rushed in to hold Jin-Woo back, while the Japanese hunters restrained Goto. They had a huge raid on Jeju Island coming up. They couldn't afford to die here. Things finally calmed down, and Jin-Woo finished sizing up his opponents. But here's the craziest part. None of these S-rank hunters even noticed Jin-Woo's shadow soldiers lurking right under their feet. Later, during the Jeju Island raid preparations, Jin-Woo met with the president to discuss the upcoming mission. Meanwhile, Goto was on the phone, admitting that Korea's hunters were actually strong enough to keep up with Japan's. But then, out of nowhere, the shocking news dropped. Jin-Woo wasn't joining the raid. No big deal, right? There were 16 S-rank hunters. Victory was basically guaranteed, right? That night, Jin-Woo came home to a warm, home-cooked meal. And this was exactly why he couldn't join the raid. His mom had just woken up after 4 years. There was no way he was leaving her now. Meanwhile, on Jeju Island, the ant army was feasting like a pack of starving wolves. The queen stood over them, watching. They had already eaten everything. It was time to migrate. But then she added something chilling. We need stronger soldiers. And just like that, she revealed her latest creation. The strongest being this world has ever seen. Not to spoil too much, but what this thing does to the hunters. Yeah, it's not even fair. This creature had just hatched, but the monstrous energy it was radiating, completely terrifying. Meanwhile, the news spread like wildfire. The ants had evolved. Now they could fly. A nightmare swarm was on its way, and people everywhere prepared for the worst. The day of the Jeju Island raid finally arrived, and it was all or nothing. The military lined up their ships, ready for war. Park Jong-soo led the lower-rank hunters, standing as Korea's last line of defense. At the same time, the Rank S hunters were saying their goodbyes to their families before boarding helicopters straight into hell itself. That's real patriotism. Even the weaker hunters stepped up, willing to put their lives on the line for their country. The president himself was stunned by the sheer number of volunteers. But the biggest shock? Baek's jaw nearly hit the floor when he saw Min Bong-gu had finally stopped being a coward. Now they had something priceless on their side. A Rank S healer. Meanwhile, Goto's team had already reached the island center. He gave the order. Everyone took their positions. A hunter was even assigned to live stream the entire raid for the world to see. Everyone thought he was walking straight into a death trap, but the guy just shrugged. Don't worry, I've filmed in worse places. The attack squad was set. The president gave the signal. The fourth Jeju Island raid had begun. The Japanese hunters unleashed an insane amount of mana, baiting out the ant soldiers. But the flying ones weren't fooled. They went straight for the helicopters. Four Eyes stepped up. Don't worry, I got this, he said, before opening the hatch and raining down flaming arrows, blowing up the ants mid-air. But some survived the fireworks, so he launched a fireball to finish the job. Choi, on the ground, was hyped beyond belief. Today was finally the day they wiped out these damn ants. Time to land, baby. The Japanese hunters had one job: hold back the ant army for an hour. That gave the Korean team just enough time to take down the Queen. Japan's navy launched their interference signal, blocking the Queen's commands to her soldiers. The ladies were slicing through the swarm like it was nothing, while that one coward in the back stood frozen, looking like he was about to pass out. Choi sealed off the nest entrance with a giant firewall, cutting off reinforcements. Meanwhile, Baek was trying to figure out which tunnel led to the Queen. Four Eyes didn't waste time thinking. He just set all of them on fire. Back at Jin-Woo's place, he was just chilling, knocking out his daily quests. They should be strong enough to handle this without me. Meanwhile, back on Jeju Island, the hunters started second-guessing if the Queen was even inside. But then Choi led them to a room packed with eggs. Jackpot. That meant she had to be close. But then they noticed something off. In the middle of the room, one massive egg had already hatched. And suddenly, everyone started sweating bullets. What kind of freak of nature crawled out of that thing? Kenzo had a cut on his shoulder, and the Rank S healer asked if he needed healing. But instead of just patching him up, she decided to mess with him. Kenzo raised an eyebrow. All right, what do you want? Except she never answered. Because when Kenzo turned to look, her head had already been sliced clean off. Bro, what the hell just happened? They were about to meet a monster so powerful that they'd wish they were never born. The moment the healer girl's head started bleeding, and the two guys froze in pure terror, Kenzo barely had time to blink before, bam, his head was already gone. Nerd Boy nearly had a heart attack and swung his sword wildly. But let's be real, if heads ain't flying, is it even solo leveling? Meanwhile, the squad was still deep in the ant nest, fighting for their lives. Even though these ants had the strength of Rank S hunters, they were still just monsters. Predictable ones at that. Cha sliced right through one like it was a warm loaf of bread, but she noticed their shells were tougher this time. She was actually kinda happy there weren't too many of them, until Bong flexed, saying he'd protect them if more showed up. Cute, right? Baek tried roasting him for acting all tough, but karma struck instantly. He forgot to crush an ant's head. And guess what? That thing got right back up. Now they knew it was only going to get worse from here. Cha suddenly caught the scent of something powerful. Bok activated his tiger vision, scanning the cave. And there it was, the Queen, chillin' like some mob boss, surrounded by thousands of royal guards. Outside, the rest of the Japanese hunters finally showed up, but there was no sign of their three missing teammates. Then, Robin Hood spotted the nerd boy's broken glasses on the ground. His face went pale. Before they could even react, Kay suddenly collapsed, struggling to breathe under the crushing weight of pure death energy. Dude panicked so hard, he froze the entire area around him, trapping himself inside like some kind of Elsa wannabe. And then there was Baru. This absolute menace just walked through it all like it was nothing, shattering everything in his path without a care in the world. Back in the city, the masked coward and gangsta girl were still trying to reach their team, but they had bigger problems. A full-blown ant tsunami was charging straight at them. Meanwhile, inside the nest, the crew had finally reached the Queen's chamber. 50,000 enemies stood between them and victory. Time to match that energy. The healer buffed everyone up, turning them into absolute monsters. Dongwook went full gorilla mode, staring the queen down like, "I'm your problem now." Choi set the whole nest on fire, ants burning left and right, and just to flex, he summoned a massive fire dragon, launching it straight into the horde. But then, the bigger ants just walked out of the flames like it was nothing. No problem. Tiger Bach was up next. He went full psycho mode, slamming ants into the walls with a grin so wide it would make nightmares flinch. Meanwhile, our cameraman was grinding for views, trying to get the best shot of the action. His boss called him, yelling, "We've got 80% of the audience locked in. Get a better angle." The healer? She told him to shut up unless he wanted to become ant food. Across the country, people were glued to their screens, watching this absolute massacre unfold on every TV, billboard, and phone. Dongwook loaded an entire army onto his shield, then blasted them away in one move. 2, after playing too much Minecraft, shot 1,000,000 arrows into the air, hoping at least one would hit. Lobo slashed through the ants, turning them into a barbecue. Choi burned everything in sight while Cha dropped from above, slicing through them like a ninja. After wiping out the guards, only one enemy remained, the queen. She swung her massive claw trying to end them all right there, but Dongwook blocked it with his shield. 2 fired more arrows, but they barely scratched her exoskeleton. B tried to keep the squad calm. A queen without her guards? That's just a sitting duck. The queen had other plans. She spat out a nasty poison attack to shut him up, but the healer was quick on the trigger, curing everyone instantly. Smart move. The queen wasn't done though. She charged straight for the one person keeping everyone alive. Four Eyes yelled for everyone to back up. He was about to nuke this bug. He launched a massive explosion, but this monster is built differently. She tanked it like it was nothing. Fireball to the face, still standing. But the 2 powerhouses weren't about to let this drag on. They grabbed her legs, shouting for Cha to finish the job. Buffed up and moving at full speed, she hacked off every leg, leaving the queen completely defenseless. One final slash, and just like that, another head went flying. The whole country erupted in celebration. After 4 failed attempts, they had finally wiped out the demonic ants. But Beck? He couldn't shake off the queen's final scream. Bong told him to forget it. They had avenged their fallen comrades, and within a year, the remaining ants would be history. But happiness? Yeah, that never lasts. Goto's assistant came rushing in with bad news. The ants were returning to the nest, and their interference signal completely dead. Choi's fire barrier had been shattered, and that last scream from the queen? That wasn't a death cry, that was a call for help. But the real issue? Those weakling ants couldn't have broken the barrier, which meant something worse was coming. Enter Baru, the monster, the machine, the walking nightmare. A pitch-black ant that filled the air with pure terror. The moment Cha felt his aura, she nearly passed out from sheer dread. Dongwook tried to attack first, but before he could even move, half his body was already torn apart. And the worst part? Baru didn't even acknowledge them. He just walked right past them, heading straight for the queen's corpse. Then, he did the unthinkable. He devoured his own mother. Letting out a roar filled with rage, Baru turned around, murder in his eyes. In a blink, he was behind Cha, smashing her into the wall so hard she almost became part of it. Dongwook transformed to fight, but one flick of Baru's claw shattered his arm, leaving him dangling like a scarecrow. Even Tiger Bach in full beast mode, completely outmatched. Choi tried to cast a spell, but before he could finish, Baru slashed his chest open. 2 fired an arrow, but Baru caught it mid-air and threw it right back. Dongwook barely survived thanks to the rank S healer. Meanwhile, Bayong, using stealth, swore that as long as he was there, they wouldn't lose. Yeah, about that. Baru grabbed him by the leg and swung him like a ragdoll. Dongwook lost consciousness, and even the camouflaged healer couldn't escape. Tiger Bach, frozen in pure shock. Bong had just been erased from existence. Bayong tried to warn Beck to run, but it was too late. Even with a hole in his stomach, Beck still fought back, only to have Baru toss his best friend's corpse at him before grabbing him by the throat. Drained of energy, Beck was forced out of his transformation. But what really sent chills down his spine? Baru started speaking. He repeated Bong's final words, calling them weaklings. Killing them wasn't enough to avenge his queen. Then, scanning the battlefield, he asked one simple question. Where is your king? Before anyone could react, Baru sensed something powerful and rushed straight toward it. Beck thought for a moment. Was Baru talking about Goto? No time to find out. They needed to escape, now. But just as they were about to run, thousands of ants swarmed the nest. Outside, Goto's team was still confused, unable to reach Kenzo and the others. They assumed the signal was lost, until they spotted a massive ice spike. And that's when the reality hit them. Gu's boss called, demanding an update. That's when Goto dropped the bomb. We have casualties. His boss hadn't expected that. He had sent his team to handle the weaker ants, leaving the Koreans to deal with the real nightmare. But did he care? No. As long as Ryuji Gu was alive, a few losses didn't matter, or so he thought. Then these 2 scumbags started celebrating with the ants. Back in the nest, the Koreans had a 0% survival rate. Japan was about to become the world's strongest nation, wiping out their biggest rival's entire military force. And on top of that, they'd get all the glory for clearing a rank S raid. So, this piece of trash ordered Goto's team to retreat and rendezvous with the others. Of course, Big Bad Baru wasn't about to let these rats escape. He flashed his claws at those traitors, and while Gu barely blocked it, Isida, well, let's just say she didn't make it. Big Boss told the other loser to run, saying he'd only get in the way. That's when Baru tilted his head and asked, "Are you the king?" Gu freaked out. This monster could talk? But he pulled himself together and declared that yes, he was the king. Baru unleashed his aura, so terrifying that for a second Gu thought he was staring death itself in the face, like he was up against Jin-Woo himself. Meanwhile, inside the nest, things were going from bad to worse. The ants kept swarming, and bees screamed for Choi to boost the flames, but poor Choi was completely drained. Everyone was so injured they could barely stay on their feet. At this point, they started accepting their fate. This was the end. But then, just before they were wiped out, Jin-Woo's shadow soldiers burst out of them like a freaking horror movie. Beck had no clue what was happening. Then, standing on top of a building, looking like an absolute legend, was Jin-Woo. Using his shadow exchange, he teleported straight into the battlefield. My dude always shows up at the perfect moment. Could he have come a little earlier? Yeah, probably. But hey, better late than never. The camera shifts to our poor cameraman, who has no clue what's happening. The hunters are even more lost. Then Igris jumps in, swinging that massive sword like a Beyblade, while Iron is out here smashing bugs like they owe him money. Tusk? Oh, he's turning those insects into ground beef. And just like that, the real boss of this dungeon makes an entrance. The squad is frozen in shock, while Four Eyes is still trying to process what Jin-Woo is even doing there. They still haven't realized this dude is the general of an entire cracked-out army. Back in the city, G and Mr. Song are confused because the broadcast just went poof. Meanwhile, the president and the inspector are sweating bullets, wondering what happened to the hunters. At the network station, they're panicking because they had to cut the footage to avoid showing the hunters getting absolutely wrecked. The boss tries calling the cameraman, no signal. That's when Jin-Woo tells Iron to use taunt, and boom, every single ant locks onto him like he just insulted their queen. He and Igris go on a bug-squashing rampage, while Tusk pops up a shield to protect the battered and confused hunters. Beck starts firing off questions like he's hosting a press conference, but Jin-Woo tells him to chill, drink a potion, and he'll explain later. Don-wook doesn't believe the juice will actually heal him, but Jin-Woo hits him with the classic "shut up and drink it." And just like that, he's patched up like a brand new action figure. Choi, though, is in such bad shape that even the potion taps out, so Jin-Woo tells them to carry her and stay behind him. He'll handle the chaos ahead. That's when an entire wave of ants crashes the party. Back at the association, the president is desperately trying to get an update, but no one has answers because the big black ant cut all communications, including with the Japanese squad. So the president orders all medical and rescue teams on standby. He's salty about being too old to fight and starts praying that everyone makes it out alive. Meanwhile, Jinna is smacking the TV like it's broken. Mom tells her that's not going to help, but Genius over here just switches to her phone to check the live stream. Over on the Japanese Navy ship, the captain explains they lost contact with Goto. Turns out, some ultra-powerful monster just appeared and added Goto's head to its collection. The Japanese boss is fuming, calling Goto useless and raging that 7 out of their 10 rank S hunters got wiped out. But the moment he hears that the monster went back into the ant nest, he cracks a creepy villainous smile, claiming no Koreans will survive and Japan will stay on top. Can't wait to see that mustache fly when karma hits. Back in the nest, Jin-Woo's elite generals are throwing an absolute rager, while the basic shadow soldiers struggle to keep up. Jin-Woo wants to add more to his squad using shadow extraction, but there are too many eyes watching, not that it even matters anymore. His secret is out in the open. So he warns the hunters that he's about to go full savage and tells them to stay behind Tusk. He also asks them to keep quiet about what they're about to see. But just as he goes to extract, something absolutely wild happens. The ants step aside. No joke, they bow their heads and clear a path like he's the king of bugs himself. That's right, Baru is back. After humbling that loudmouth Goto, he steps forward, radiating an aura so strong that even Jin-Woo's shadow soldiers hesitate. This bug is different. Everyone feels it. Baru lets out a scream full of rage, saying the king isn't outside either. Then he asks if the true king is right here. Jin-Woo instantly realizes this is the freak that erased the shadow he planted on Goto. When he steps forward, the hunters collectively clutch their pearls in panic. No one can tell whose aura is more terrifying, Jin-Woo's or Baru's. This is the showdown everyone has been waiting for. The giant roach asks if Jin-Woo is the king of humans. Jin-Woo just laughs in his face like, dude, you're just a talking bug. Baru acknowledges his strong aura and then lets out a scream so powerful it nearly sends the hunters flying. But Jin-Woo doesn't even flinch. The dude just smirks, unfazed. Choi is sweating bullets, thinking even Jin-Woo might not handle this monster. After a billion connection attempts, the broadcast finally comes back online. The boss yells to get it back on the air, but his assistant panics because they won't be able to censor anything if this goes south. The boss doesn't care. Better traumatize the audience than lose those sweet, sweet ratings. Everyone is watching in shock. Jinho, Mr. Song, literally everyone who's ever teamed up with Jin-Woo has their jaws on the floor. His sister is the most confused of all because, just 3 minutes ago, he told her he was going to the corner store. Now he's throwing hands in Hell's backyard. The president even snaps his chair in half from sheer excitement. Giel is trying to figure out how Jin-Woo even got to Jeju, but no one cares anymore. Everything is riding on this battle. Baru swings a killer right hook, but Choi questions why a so-called mage is even up close like that. Baru scoffs, calling Jin-Woo too weak to be a king, but his confidence disappears real fast when Jin-Woo doesn't even budge. Then Jin-Woo activates Dominator's touch and slams Baru into the ground like he's dunking trash into a dumpster. He follows up with a meteor punch, but Baru barely dodges at the last second. Don Wook asks Beck if Jin-Woo is really a mage. At this point, nobody knows anything anymore. Baru comes back swinging with the force of Thor's hammer, but Jin-Woo blocks it like it's nothing. The cameraman, just a regular old rank A, can barely stay standing as the real fight kicks off. Jin-Woo and Baru trade blows like they've had beef since kindergarten. Then Jin-Woo lands a punch so nasty it launches Baru 10 blocks away. Baru is completely baffled. This human is something else. Baru charges again, but Jin-Woo counters midair and nails him right in the snout. Blood pours out of Baru's nose like Sanji spotting a bikini model. But Baru isn't playing around anymore. One scratch, and boom, he injects a venom so strong it could knock out a rhino. He flexes, thinking it's game over. But before the lights go out, Jin-Woo grabs Baru's wrist and drops a punch so powerful that it cracks Baru's armor and sends him flying into a wall. Four Eyes is in full shock mode. Jin-Woo shouldn't even be able to move, but at this point, Beck has seen enough crazy stuff to not even blink. Jin-Woo just shrugs and says, "So that's your ace, huh?" In seconds, the system purges every ounce of poison from his body. He glances at Choi, knowing he has to finish this fast for her sake. He launches a brutal kick, but this time Baru dodges like a pro. Realizing that nothing is working, Baru activates his final form. His exoskeleton starts evolving like he's going full Digimon, and suddenly, this bug is 5,000 times harder to kill. Jin-Woo summons his Demon Monarch daggers, crackling with dark lightning like they just dropped from a boss fight. He swings, but Baru blocks it like he's parrying a tutorial enemy. The two go right back to trading blows, moving so fast it looks like a Dragon Ball fight on turbo mode. Baru summons ice spikes, probably looted from that Japanese rank S who became a distant memory. Suddenly, they're mid-air, rocks falling all around like someone just threw the stage into a blender. Baru realizes Jin-Woo isn't just keeping up, he's surpassing him. The man isn't just matching his moves, he's downloading his entire skill set in real time. They clashed so fast it shattered reality itself. You couldn't even follow it in slow motion. This was peak anime. Jin-Woo broke through Baru's guard and unleashed a flurry of gut punches, then dual-wielded his daggers like a blender on overdrive, slicing that oversized cockroach like he owed him back rent. But Baru wasn't done yet. He slammed Jin-Woo into the dirt and went for the eye-piercing finisher. Right before things got ugly, Jin-Woo's skill Fatal Strike evolved into mutilation, and my guy turned that bug into shredded lettuce. He sliced so fast even Baru couldn't keep up. Baru tried to regenerate behind a wall of ice, but Jin-Woo had that "I'm built different" energy. For the first time ever, the arrogant bug felt true fear. Jin-Woo drop-kicked him in the gut so hard his body shattered like glass. Now, looking like he fell down an elevator shaft, Baru called for backup like a sore loser. Too bad he wasn't the only one with a squad. Jin-Woo's shadow generals rolled up, ready to wipe out every last one of those crusty bugs. Even Kaisel pulled up like the final boss of a gacha banner. The orcs smashed through the swarm, and Tusk dropped a fireball that blew open the nest like a can of soda. Baru was straight up panicking. None of this made sense. Wasn't he supposed to be the strongest? Why did this dude in black jeans and a hoodie feel like the final boss? Baru tried to fly away, but Jin-Woo snatched him up like a toy crane machine and dropped him to his knees in front of the real king. No speeches, no mercy. Another mutilation. GG. Jin-Woo leveled up like 5 times instantly. The ants scattered like roaches when the lights came on. The hunters couldn't believe it. They had actually won. But Jin-Woo wasn't celebrating. He sprinted toward Cha, who looked one breath away from logging out permanently. They told him to wait for a chopper, but he knew she wouldn't make it. He pulled out his last resort, the life elixir, the same one that saved his mom from a terminal illness. If anything could save her, it was this. But even that wasn't enough. She didn't respond. Jin-Woo was crushed. He tried everything, but nothing worked. Then, just when all hope seemed lost, boom, cliffhanger. Because solo leveling lives to stress test our blood pressure. But now the real question, can he save Cha? If you want me to recap the final solo leveling episode, then smash that subscribe button and drop a comment below letting us know what you think. Let's hit 100k to Anisaga 10 before the year ends. And don't miss the next video next week. It's really straight up fire.